Mo Islam, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me again on 20 Minute Playbook.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So this should be a lot of fun. I'll ask you about 10 questions. I will try to do this all within 20 minutes. And, the goal of this is to learn a little bit more about you and what makes you tick. And obviously we just spent quite a bit of time diving into everything space, everything that you're building at Payload Space in a longer form interview, which was amazing. But I'm excited for this. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question that we always ask is just if you can share a recent fascination. What has been intriguing you recently, space related or not?
One thing that's been really intriguing me is how do we help the world understand why space is so important? It's like one of the things that really makes me tick. Um, the gig economy, tracking climate change, credit card purchases, it's all enabled by space. And if you ask most people, they will have no idea, or they won't know why. And I think there's a common conception that space is a complete waste of money, and it's really just for the rich, right? It's just for the billionaires. So how do we change this perspective? That's probably one thing it's a fascination for me because it's one of those, it's something that's so important to our everyday life, but the perception of it is not that. So it's very fat. I always wonder, how did we get to this point where it drives so much of what we do on an everyday life? But people still ask the question, why would we, spend any money on that industry or in that realm? So
Well, totally. Super selfishly, I will say that this is why I love what you're building at Payload Space, because I think for most people, all they see is billionaires launching themselves and other very wealthy people into space. They're not seeing all the amazing stuff that's happening. And so I think that needs to become more mainstream. Second, when you think about business and leadership, what do you think of as your superpowers? You have a fascinating background, in finance. You're now building this, space media company. What are your superpowers, and how do you use those daily at Payload?
I would maybe say two things that I would highlight, and hopefully it could be helpful to others listening to this. And I think the first is when we first started Payload and the news came out, there were actually a lot of folks that hated what we were doing. And publicly we're saying things about us and who we were and our capabilities of pulling this off. And we always took the approach, and it's a genuine approach of we're going to kill people with kindness. For us, there's just no need to engage in that type of dialogue. I think just you let your product speak for itself as you build it, right? And you just add value that way. So for us, I think that it's very easy in this modern era to get into these Twitter battles. It happens all the time, and it's really silly, and oftentimes it reflects very poorly of those involved. So for us, it's just don't stoop to that level. If you're going to publicly hate on someone, it's just hey, if you have feedback, let us know. But and it's okay, by the way, if you want to publicly, I welcome folks giving us feedback publicly. There's no problem with it, but we're not going to ever engage and be mean to people. That's never going to be something that we do. I think the other thing is, and we did talk about this very briefly on the original episode, is just this idea of focusing on, or sorry, not focusing on, but staying focused, but embracing sort of the boredom, right? And it's something that I really experience and I really want to highlight, because I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs think running a business is exciting and there's always something new. And to an extent, it is. But the other side of the coin is really executing on the playbook. So, once you build the playbook, every day you just focus on executing and not deviating. And you can't be distracted by shiny objects, right? Like the new trend and just help make that distract you from the core business, right? Just focus on execution and ultimately building a profitable business.
Yeah. Operational excellence is not a glamorous thing, but if you want
No.
to be great at it, you have to keep working. I want to ask about mentors or figures that have shaped your approach to business and leadership. In the last episode, we talked about Musk. I don't know if he is a mentor for you. When you think about just yourself, who inspires you? Who did you maybe learn from, and what marks have they left on you?
So I will say, I come from the world of investing, right? So I think my early sort of inspiration in helping understand trends and technologies has been really Phillippe Laffont. He's a hedge fund manager, right? And he's the founder of Co2. He's a story technology investor, and he's always had really amazing insights and insights really into trends and how they develop. And he also turned me on to one of my now favorite books, which is called Engines That Move Markets. And it's turned into a bit of a manifesto for me. It's not very well known, at least as far as I know. I've never ever heard anyone else talk about it. And it's basically it just like goes back to the, I think it's like the British Industrial Revolution or like the Canal era. It just talks about every single technology that really helped shape and disrupt society from like really like just the 1700s, the 1800s, all the way today. And what you actually just notice is like the society just follows this trend, right? Technology just follows a very clear trend, right? And once you understand how those trends develop, take place, both from like a capital flow perspective and also consumer interest, you actually start to realize that, hey, like this happens over and over again. And you just, as an investor, you just need to make sure that you're in sort of the right, right part of that cycle. And depending where you are in that cycle, you know how to like pivot your business, or you know how to like focus, reshift your focus. It's a book that I think actually where lessons can be applied to both investors and to founders. So it's a great book, especially if you're building a technology business. And I think it really kind of encompasses like the ethos that Phillippe Laffont uses when he's investing. And it's not a surprise that he's turned into such a, storied investor.
Yeah. I love that answer. And I think I've maybe heard that book reference once, but I've never read it. So this is a great nudge to go and read it. And we'll link to this in the show notes as well, too, for anyone that wants to find it. Do you have a favorite quote or anecdote about being a founder? And this can be serious. It can be hilarious. There's no right or wrong answer. Are there any words or wisdom that make you laugh or that ring in your head?
Yeah, I was actually reading about this recently as it relates to a company or project, rather, I'd say. But hubris kills startups and humility saves them. And it really speaks to something that I try to live by every day, which is no matter what your success level is or may not be, it's really important to always be humble about what you're building and what you're doing, because it can change at the drop of a hat, right? It's very, very easy to think that you're on this path of great success, and it, creates, you become overconfident. And, quite honestly, sometimes like there are a lot of founders out there who are just straight up assholes, right? And like, I never understood that. And I hope I'm never in a position where that's the type of personality I develop, but it's something I'm very, very keenly aware of. And it drives away good people. It creates bad culture. And ultimately, like there's just history is littered with examples of founders who just were, it's not a bad thing to be overly confident. But when it turns into more of like hubris and it turns into like, well, nothing can stop me, I think sometimes you lose track of sort of some of the risks. And you get complacent. It's easy to get complacent in those situations. So that I would say is probably my favorite in terms of being a founder.
It's great. It's great. No, and it seems like part of that as well, too, at least my interpretation of it here, and you say that is, hubris is almost like you're getting detached from the reality, and something that's very, very, very true, especially if you've, invested in, been a part of enough startups, is reality's brutal. And, it's not always fun to be engaged in it every single day as a startup founder, but it's essential that you face it. You can treat it as data. You want to try to make it not emotional, but being connected to reality is really, really, really important. If you could go back to the start of your career and whisper some advice, a reminder, maybe even some words of wisdom in your ear, is there anything you would say to your younger self? It's at the start of your career.
But this would be my realistic advice to myself. I would say like it's really an iteration of focus on what you love, but within reason, right? If you're like, oh, well, I'm going to go after this industry, but I also want to make a lot of money. Like you just kind of have to like let's be real, right? I guess more founders are motivated by this than they care to admit, which is like money, right? That's fine. If you want to build a business because you want to make a lot of money, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Go and do that. But if you're preaching to the world that like, oh, like do what you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life, like, yeah, that's true, but to an extent, right? So for me, I think like when I look back at my career and I wanted to be an aerospace engineer, to be quite honest. Had I done that and I stayed on course and not been too sort of like enamored by the thought of coming to New York and being like going into banking, I think I would have ended up in exactly where I wanted to be, probably sooner, right? So I would say it's an iteration of focus on what you love, right? It's like, yes, but also just kind of ask yourself the question ultimately, like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for money? Or are you doing it really for something different, right? So like, that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you had to distill down your philosophy of building a company, and this is specifically with Payload, you could talk about how you think about it culturally, how you think about it, strategically. If you had to distill down your philosophy of building Payload into just a few words, what would those be?
I would say that um, build a playbook. It can be boring. It could be nothing. There could be not much unique about it, but just if you can relentlessly execute on it, then you can build a really big business. Don't be distracted by the fancy stuff. Just execute, and the money will come. Our business model is really boring. Our industry is exciting, but our business model is really, really boring. We're not recreating the wheel, at least yet. We're just trying to be relentless executors.
That's great advice. What's a book, article, or paper you love that you think more people should read? And I know you've already talked about engines that markets move, so you can, promote that again. If there's another one, though, feel free to share
No, I
that.
would just say, I would say more broadly what I would love if, more people actually read about in general. I won't maybe point to a specific book, but just like read about the Apollo era. It's a remarkable story of how, as a society, we really came together for the pursuit of this amazing feat, and we accomplished it. We were politically coordinated. We were organized as a society. Like there was a huge focus on STEM, right? The sciences, science, technology, engineering, math, and like it was just sort of a beautiful, coordinated effort, and really a testament to what we can achieve as a society when we're all when we're all looking after the same goal. And I just think that just reading about sort of the story of the scientists and the engineers and all the people that all sort of the people that worked on this project. I mean, it's a really amazing story. So I would say that's one thing that I wish people read more about or knew more about.
We'll try to do, I definitely have a couple of books on my bookshelf around it. So I'll try to do a little bit of research and add that to the show notes as well, too. What tiny habit or practice has had the biggest positive impact on your life?
To-do lists. I've been, the note, I would say like the notes app has been my lifesaver. I've tried so many different things, but like I was getting to a point where I was just missing. Like, I mean, there's just so when you're doing something like this, there's so many things you just end up missing, right? Emails, like just like things that you have to do. All of a sudden, you're dropping what you're doing because something else is more important. So this phone that I'm holding up here, the Notes app, it's like probably my most used app. I'm always on it because I'm just adding to it or I'm just taking things off. And it's become almost like a habit of mine, but it's been a lifesaver. It's been a huge lifesaver, and it's allowed me like really not to miss some of the more important things that happen. I mean, in the early days, like I'd be mortified knowing, the things that I missed, right? Or thinking about the things I missed. So anyway, that would be my answer to that.
You're not the only person that said that. I know even Jack Dorsey basically runs his entire life and his to-do list off notes. It's amazing. It's a super simple general utility, but it's amazing how useful it's been for so many people. Two last questions. The first is, what is your favorite way to waste an hour? If you have an hour free, what guilty pleasure do you wish you had more time for?
I would say that. So I'm going to have to preface this a little bit so it doesn't sound completely random. So I am a huge music person. I played the saxophone as a kid, but it was never really my thing. And music has always been a big part of my life. What could have been, right? But I got into producing dance music in college. And I actually, when I worked in banking right out of college, I actually was a DJ in the city as a hobby. So I was DJing in sort of the nightclub world in New York, and I ended up playing outside the city. So it was something that I did totally for fun. It's always been a huge hobby of mine, and now anytime I have an hour to waste, I'm usually like opening up like live Ableton or Logic, and just messing around with it like I used to do in the old days. So
So
it's always
cool.
fun, and it's like a just great creative outlet.
Well, one day if Payload Space has space-themed dance music playlists on Spotify, I'll know. I'll know where that came from.
Hey, we actually, it's funny you say that. We actually have a playlist. We've yet to
Yes.
release it, but we have a playlist coming. So stay
Yes.
tuned.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, last question. What do you feel like is the most important lesson you've learned in life or business? And I think what I'm trying to get at here, we've talked about a lot of stuff. We've talked about stuff specific to Payload, stuff specific to, being a founder. I think here it's really like, if you could pass on one lesson from your life, what would that lesson be? In this, you could imagine it's a son or a daughter, somebody else.
One lesson that I would pass on to, I guess the way I would think about it is a lesson that I would pass on to my children. I'm going to allude to a question I asked on a panel recently that provided an answer that I think that really resonated with me, which was, do something in life that really matters, that helps change other people's lives. Not something that's just like an incremental like improvement on like some like ad buying algorithm, right? Like try to do something that, because there's just not enough people doing things like that, right? We have spent so much of the last 10, 15 years, arguably one of the greatest bull markets ever, building businesses that, like as Chris would say, Chris Powers from Hadrian would say, right, that if they went away, would have no impact, no real impact on our everyday life. And I think there's so many problems, so many huge problems that are yet to be solved from, within space, of course, but, in energy, in food, right? That like, if we solve them, we would just have, I know this sounds very idealistic, but there's just not enough people. I think, Daniel, we talked about this once in the past where there's this very famous like survey by some like newspaper company. I think it was like Daily Mail or something. That was just like, they surveyed like 2,000 kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the first answer, the number one most popular answer was like influencer, right? And there's nothing wrong with being an influencer, but when you have a vast majority of the population saying or the younger population saying like, oh, like, yeah, influencer, right? I'm not surprised by that at all. That's a real problem, and that's just not good for our society going forward, right? And it's part of the reason why I think it's so important that we continue investing in industries like space and we go to Mars, right? Because one of the biggest things that will come from a Mars mission, which people don't often talk about, is the fact that it's going to inspire people. The number of kids that a Mars mission will inspire, and the STEM graduates and the folks that are going to go into those industries and are going to build and do amazing things, will exponentially pay for the cost of that mission to Mars, right? So for me, just do something that like really matters, right, and helps like change people's lives for the better.
I love it. It's a perfect note to end on. It feels like in many ways it's just swing bigger or dream bigger. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for the time and for coming on, Mo.
Daniel, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
For everyone listening and watching, you can sign up for Payload Space, where Mo is one of the founders and the CEO. They have an amazing space-focused daily newsletter, which I highly recommend at payloadspace.com. You can also follow them on Twitter at Payload Space. And again, I'm going to plug your Twitter account just because I really like following you. You can also follow Mo at It's Mo Islam on Twitter. Thank you so much, Mo.
Thank you. You're too kind. Thank you.